Welcome to the Parenting Power Podcast, supporting parents with the real-life tools they need to raise the confident, interdependent people the world needs. Gail Bell and Julie Friedman-Smith interview experts who share their knowledge to assist parents in creating a home environment where kids can thrive.
Hi, and welcome to the Parenting Power Podcast. I'm Julie Friedman-Smith.
And I'm Gail Bell.
I'll begin by telling you a little bit about our guest today. Lisa Cheverie is a mom of two active girls playing competitive sport, one in high school and one in college. She's a certified holistic nutritional consultant, culinary nutrition expert, and fitness instructor here in Calgary. Lisa has been working with women for years, helping them stay active and teaching them how to feed themselves and their kids better. She merges her fitness background with holistic nutrition to share her passion for eating real, whole foods and living a more holistic family life. Lisa offers private holistic nutrition consultations, nutrition presentations and workshops, and personalized meal planning and cooking classes. Thanks for joining us today, Lisa.
Well, thanks for having me. It's nice to share some of this information.
Lisa, we know that we live in a world that's abundant in many things, including food, and there's so many choices out there. But how do we fuel young athletes all day for energy at school and for their sport?
Well, it seems that most of us are raising kids today that are registered in sport, if not more than one. And the opportunities and options are endless. And this is great because it's so important to keep them active and busy while they grow and mature. They learn so many life lessons from sport, mentally, emotionally, and physically. However, staying on top of everything that goes along with raising young athletes can be overwhelming for parents. The scheduling, the driving, the equipment, dealing with injuries, and fitting in homework, to name a few. But one of the biggest challenges that I've experienced personally and hear about from parents is figuring out how to feed them well so they not only have the energy they need for a whole day of optimal school and sport performance, but also the nutrition they need to support their healthy growth, development, and recovery every day. The first tip I have is to just eat real food. Real food has power. There's so many packaged, processed fast foods out there begging for our attention and our money, but they have very little of that real energy that kids need. And children can get all the nutrients they need for growing, learning, playing a sport, keeping a strong immune system by eating a balanced, real, whole foods diet that includes lots of variety, because every food has a different nutrient profile. And so it's overwhelming and really confusing to understand all the individual nutrients that kids need for growth and for mental and physical performance. But if the focus stays simply on eating real food most of the time, adding a new food here and there to bump up variety, their needs are going to be met fairly well. And most kids love to be the one to pick a new fruit or veggie to try. And the adventure continues with learning how to prepare it. What do you do with it? And so it teaches them how to be brave with food and how to have variety, which gives them the best chance to get all the nutrients that they're going to need as they grow and for a healthy life. That brings me to my next little tip. To increase nutrition, focus on adding rather than avoiding, restricting, or removing. And so when you add one good thing at a time to your lifestyle, the less healthy foods and lifestyle habits gradually get reduced or squeezed out altogether. Have that 80-20 mindset with food. It's about balance, and all foods have a place in a healthy diet, even junk foods. They just need to be balanced out with healthier choices. They become sometimes foods. So it's important for kids to learn balance and that there is a time and place for most things in life. But remembering that health foods will give you the most energy-full fuel. And my next little tip is young athletes generally need 3 balanced meals and 2 to 4 healthy snacks each day, with some good hydration mixed in. So basically, this means eating every 3 to 4 hours, and having healthier choices does take that little bit of planning, practice, and preparation, but try picking one meal or one snack to improve on each week rather than overhauling a whole meal plan. And those balanced meals and snacks will have complex carbs, proteins, and healthy fats. And a balanced meal with lots of variety over time will be rich in the vitamins, minerals, fiber, and phytonutrients, those superpower nutrients that are needed to stay healthy, grow well, and perform optimally. So I'll do a quick overview of carbs, proteins, and healthy fats, their role in the body, and some really good sources to start including in your child's nutrition. So carbohydrates are an athlete's key fuel. It's their secret weapon. And they should make up 45 to 65% of their total diet. Our body breaks carbohydrates down into glucose, which is our muscle and brain's preferred and main source of fuel. Glucose enters the bloodstream for immediate use by the body, and it's also converted into glycogen that's stored in our muscles and liver for later use. And this is what gives us the energy we need between meals to continue thinking and moving. So think of carbohydrates like the gas we put in our car. Without gas, the car won't run. And a full tank of gas will let us drive longer on a trip than starting with a half-full tank. So failing to eat enough carbohydrate-rich foods throughout the day will result in less fuel for our muscles and brain, leading to early fatigue in sport, low overall energy, poor mental focus, problem-solving issues, emotional instability, and just that reduced ability to cope with stress at home, school, and sport. They're important, and some healthy carbohydrate choices for meals and snacks are things like green veggies, sweet potatoes, squashes, brown rice, oatmeal, whole grain bread and pasta, barley, beans, lentils, and dairy also provides carbohydrates. Proteins are another important source of nutrients for growing athletes and should make up 10 to 30% of their diet. It's essential for repairing, rebuilding, and growing all tissues, muscles, tendons, skin, and bones. It's important for maintaining a strong immune system so we can fight off illness and infection. And it helps maintain blood sugar so that our energy is stable between meals. And most kids are not generally deficient in protein, but oftentimes they're eating all their protein at one meal, like dinner. And the body can only absorb and use so much protein at a time. So it's recommended that some protein be included at every meal and most snacks to spread it out throughout the day rather than loading up in 1 or 2 meals. And studies show that spreading out protein helps stimulate better muscle recovery, repair, and growth. And some good healthy plant and animal-based sources are legumes, nuts, seeds, whole grains, fish, lean meat, poultry, eggs, and full-fat dairy. And the last macronutrient to include in a balanced meal and in snacks are healthy fats. And there's so much focus in sport nutrition on carbohydrates and proteins that we often forget about the critical role of healthy fats in maintaining health. And fats should make up 25 to 35% of an athlete's diet. Fats are needed by every membrane in the body. They're necessary for absorbing fat-soluble vitamins. They fuel low-intensity activity and reduce inflammation, which helps speed up tissue recovery from sports. We need them to protect organs, give us insulation, nerve function, and they're essential for growth and function of young brains. We also need healthy fats for healthy hormones. And it's our hormones that regulate and control everything in the body, from bone growth to heart rate, metabolism, mood, appetite, sleep, and how we manage stress. So healthy fats should be included in every meal and most snacks when possible. And they're easy to fit in when we plan a dinner around a nice fatty fish like salmon. We put seeds like chia, hemp, flax, pumpkin into baking or trail mixes. We cook with coconut and olive oil. We use nut butters and nuts and seed butters, and of course avocados. And my last tip is to sip water all day. Nutrition for all-day energy requires adequate hydration, and water is one of the body's most essential nutrients. It's the cornerstone of all our body functions, and it keeps our body temperature stable, transports nutrients and oxygens to all our cells. It helps maintain blood volume and keeps our joints and body tissues like eyes, mouth, nose healthy. And it's important not to get dehydrated as an athlete because it causes fatigue, headaches, nausea, stomach and muscle cramps, dizziness, and irritability, which are often common symptoms experienced by young and older athletes. And it takes as little as 2% dehydration to affect sports performance factors like speed, coordination, reaction time, decision-making, and focus. And the amount of water needed every day varies depending on age, weight, activity level, humidity, and overall health. But as a rule of thumb, kids should have at least 6 to 8 or more cups of water, and they should add on about a half a cup every 15 to 20 minutes for exercise or when they're playing a sport. And it's good to remember that kids do have a poor sense of thirst, so they often need to be reminded, and a new water bottle from time to time can help keep them interested too. And so water is best for kids and teens, but oftentimes they'll drink more water when their water is flavored, and so unsweetened juices can be diluted or fresh fruit mixed in. And we often forget that there's some really super hydrating fruits and vegetables that can bump up hydration, and so choices like watermelon, strawberries, raspberries, cantaloupe, pineapple, apples, and oranges are among the highest, but even bananas are 74% water, and they're easy to cart around. And vegetables like cucumber, zucchini, celery, tomatoes, and peppers are really hydrating. And so a fruit and veggie smoothie or a piece of whole fruit is a great way to provide some hydration at breakfast or for snacks before activity.
Wow, Lisa, that is such a wonderful amount of information. I love your tips, and my favorite one is the adding, because I can just see as parents the ability to say, let's add one new thing to what we're going to put into our food for this week. Each of you gets to choose. You choose this week, and next week the other child can choose. And so it's something that is way more fun than you're not allowed to eat this. So I love all of those tips, but that's the one that really resonated for me. So we know that sometimes it can be hard to get timing right for nutrition if your child has a super early game, or I know my daughter right now is playing a ton of super late hockey games. Sometimes, there are a few games or matches back to back. So what should young athletes eat right before playing their sport if it's not really around a meal time?
Well, eating before sport is really important. You don't want them going into training or competition hungry, because that snack right before tops up those muscle glycogen stores, which provide the physical energy needed in muscles, preventing early fatigue, and fuels their brain, keeping them mentally and emotionally strong for competing and for strategizing. So not only does this give them that little bit of energy to think and move, but it enables them also during training to train longer and more effectively, ultimately helping them to make those improvements in their sport. And so ideally they're having a pre-sport meal 2 to 3 hours before they train, which could be their lunch if they train after school, but they might need an after-school meal if they've got late day training or even training in the evening. And so a meal at that time could be their dinner split into 2. Mm-hmm. And generally, the longer you have before you train, the bigger your meal or snack can be. The more protein, fat, and fiber you can include. Larger volumes of food and foods high in protein, fat, and fiber do take longer to digest. When food is not fully digested, it can lead to stomach upset during training and competing. And so as you get closer to when you're going to play your sport, you want the protein, fat, and fiber and the volume to be reduced and focus more on carbohydrates, because it's the carbohydrates that provide that energy for the muscles and the brain to work. And carbohydrates should also become their simpler form of composition as you get closer. And some examples of these quicker, easier to digest snacks that you can eat within an hour of training are things like applesauce packs, fig bars, homemade muffins, energy bars and bites, dried fruit like dates, apricots, raisins, and of course fresh fruit like grapes, berries, oranges, bananas, and veggies like cucumbers, peppers, those hydrating vegetables that have some carbohydrate sugar in them. Pretzels or bagels with nut butters, and even kids can tolerate some yogurt and granola. But it's important to keep in mind that some kids do have trouble digesting dairy, and so it might be worth reducing dairy or using a nut milk instead a few hours before they go to sport, just to reduce stomach distress if they do experience that on a regular basis. So as I mentioned earlier, dehydration does contribute to poor performance, reduced mental function, headaches, stomach aches, muscle cramps, early fatigue. And so it is important to go into sport well hydrated and to drink at least that half cup of water every 15 to 20 minutes during sport. Kids often come home from school really dehydrated because they just simply forget to drink. And so water, diluted juices, hydrating fruits, and fruit and veggie smoothies can be a real benefit right before sport.
Oh, that's great. Lots of ideas there for us to think about. And I keep hearing water, 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 so that's really important.
It is important, but kids get bored with water. And so, if you can think about some different ways of hydrating them, there's lots of different ways to just make that more interesting. And of course, I mentioned before, there's so many cute and techy water bottles out there that you can certainly add in here from time to time.
Great idea. Now, how about the other end, Lisa? How important is a post-sport recovery snack or meal?
So we've talked about all-day nutrition and the importance of pre-sport fueling, but recovery snacks and meals are just as important. And oftentimes when kids are finished their sport, they're too tired from school and sport to eat. They don't feel like it. They've lost their appetite. But it's really an important time that is key to efficient and effective refueling, repair, rebuilding, and rehydrating. And no other meal provides as much energy for the next training session or competition as this one, because during the first 30 minutes and up to 2 hours after exercising is when your body is the most efficient at soaking up nutrients to refuel those muscle, liver, glycogen stores, for rehydrating the body and repairing and rebuilding muscle tissue. And after 2 hours, glycogen can still be restored, but it happens at a much slower rate, and it may not refuel enough to top up fully for the next day. And missing this window means athletes are more likely to have muscle fatigue and lack the mental and physical energy needed to train or compete optimally. And this is really important if they're training or competing again the next day. And so, a snack and a few cups of water within 30 minutes of the end of their sport, and a balanced full meal within an hour or two with more water throughout the evening is ideal. And carbohydrate-rich foods should be the main focus right away. But there also needs to be protein for sure in that recovery meal, if not in the snack, so that muscle repair and rebuilding and immune system boosting can happen. And it's also really beneficial to include foods containing plenty of antioxidants. Those are those little superpowered plant-based nutrients that protect your body's cells from damage. They reduce inflammation and promote really efficient muscle recovery. And they're found mainly in our plant-based foods, those colorful fruits and veggies. And so some ideas for recovery snacks to have right after sport, to keep in their sport bag or even in the car ride home, or to have in your car on a regular basis, are fruit, fresh or dried, fruit bars with some nut butter, homemade muffins, banana bread, granola bars, energy bars or bites, and good old ants on a log with nut butter and raisins, Greek yogurt, granola, or even a simple peanut butter and jam sandwich on a whole grain bread or bagel, some trail mix, crackers and cheese, pita and veggies with hummus. There's lots of different options that you can switch in your weekly rotation if you think about doing it that way. And some kids even benefit from a bedtime snack after a balanced meal just to bump up their calories. But if they're, that kid that's just too tired to eat a lot right away, it's a great time to add that extra little bit of calorie and nutrition and just ensure that they're topped up and ready for the next day. And
what I'm really hearing from you, Lisa, is that so much of this is about the planning, but it's not complicated. It's not like we have to go out and get things that we don't already have. I know that in our experience, I'm often planning before the game or before the practice, what food is going to carry them through that. And then more often than not, after a game, we fall into, okay, my daughter's hungry, and we stop somewhere on the way home and get something that really, as I understand, if she's soaking up nutrients, I'm not giving her anything with very many nutrients, but it would be so easy to just plan to have some of these things available to really fill that vacuum, which you say is created right after exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really, when you think about feeding your kids overall, remember, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Yep. And that good overall daily nutrition makes a difference for them. And so make small, simple, sustainable changes and additions to their diet gradually. And they do add up to big improvements and changes over time. And so maybe it's focusing on just having, an extra water bottle around, or making a healthy homemade snack on the weekends that you freeze, or getting something that's, shelf stable, so to speak, like trail mix that you always have in your car, or that they always have in their bag as a backup. You've got that insurance of nutrition when they need it. But nobody's perfect. It does take time and practice and patience, getting used to having that food ready and available. And we're going to have good days and bad days. Ultimately, though, that's where that marathon way of looking at it is important, because if they've got that foundation of great overall daily nutrition, they're going to be just fine through the ups and downs of trying to feed active, busy kids.
For sure. And we all know at Parenting Power there is no perfect parent, so we're all doing what we can with what we know. Today you have provided us with so much valuable information. I know Gail and I have benefited. I'm sure the parents that are out there listening today will have as well. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
If listeners wanted to find out more information from you, where is the best place for them to follow you?
They can send me an email at lisa@simplywellfed.ca.
That's great.
Well, thank you so much for having me.